everyone, and thank you for joining us here on the Recruitment Roundup Podcast, which is brought to you by BMS Performance. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, BMS Performance is a specialist sales and marketing recruitment consultancy. For the last 30 years, we've been helping businesses across the UK recruit for vacancies at every level. I'm your host, Mike Leather. We'll get stuck into the latest trends in regards to recruitment. We'll talk about insights, we share ideas, we share experiences, and ultimately we look to provide value to fundamentally help you, whether or not you're a hiring manager, a business leader, or part of an internal talent team, to recruit smarter, faster, and more effectively. We've been away for a little while, but today I'm delighted to be joined by my new co-host, Sam Muzzy-Urira. Welcome to the show, Sam. Great to have you alongside with me.
Mike, thank you so much for having me. Really excited to spend some time with you, but also looking forward to the season ahead. So yeah, let's get stuck in.
Indeed. So we're going to be talking about a couple of subjects today, both of which are going to be relevant for sales directors, sales managers, hiring managers, but also sales professionals as well. I think the first one we want to talk about is what makes a top performing new business sales professional in the current market. And we're definitely not immune to this, but most companies across the UK, across all industry sectors, have definitely had a more challenging 2023 than 2022, haven't they?
100%.
And a real reason for that is fundamentally it's been harder to sell, hasn't it? Companies have been tighter with their budgets, more cautious about what they're investing in, less reluctant to meet with new partners, new vendors, new suppliers. So that has made the environment that we find ourselves in a much more challenging one, and even more difficult for salespeople. So, we've seen that in our business, haven't we? People have had to really relearn skills that they might not have had to use for several years, mainly around BD. So we wanted to get into this. I think it'd be a good topic. What are your thoughts, Sam?
I think it's a really, really good topic. Thinking about the challenges, like you've said, especially coming out of COVID, sales, new business sales has been a challenge, and within most organizations that we tend to deal with. But yeah, I've got some exciting points that I'd like to dig into and really explore this topic a bit further.
Yeah, well, then you can kick off. What's point one?
Yeah, I think point one for me, when I break down new business sales and the real top performers within any organization, I think in the most basic element, it starts off with communication, really.
Yeah.
And I think from my end, communication is split into a couple of vertical points. So when I think about just the first ability to be able to build rapport, I think that's such a lost art, and the top performers can really do that. On top of that, it's also the ability to effectively listen, right? High performers, high performing new business sales professionals can listen and be able to articulate, features and benefits to the customer that they're engaging with. So it's that ability to build rapport, the ability to listen, the ability to convey articulately the benefits and features, of a product that they're able to use. And then, it's just the ability to build rapport. So in the most basic element is probably a point that I'd like to start with.
Yeah, because you'll be the same. I get hammered by email outreach. Just do. I would say 90% of salespeople, which are mostly BDEs, SDRs that prospect me, just send me an email. Like, I must get 90% emails, 10% cold calls. I've had one cold call in the last 3 months from someone trying to sell me something. That tells you everything that you need to know.
Yeah.
And most of the emails you get are completely unqualified anyway.
Yeah.
They're not talking about problem that I might have and how said product service solves it. So I definitely think that piece, effective communication, rapport building, totally agree. I think if we look at the people in our business that do really well, but also the candidates that we see that we know are top performers because they're proven that top performers when we assess them in a new business environment, they have got real good grip of a multi-channel approach.
Yeah.
Because the buyers, certainly in this environment, this climate, they like to be communicated in different ways, don't they? Like if you were prospecting me and you were trying to cold call me, and I'm going to contradict what I just said, but hopefully people understand, you probably wouldn't get me on your first approach with a cold call.
Yeah.
But if you were sending me WhatsApps, if you were sending me voice notes, I would respond to you. And then you get me on the phone. So all roads lead back to the phone or Teams. What have you seen? You deal with loads of candidates, like the best ones. What have you seen around like their use of a multi-channel approach?
Yeah, I think all the top performers really, really lean on that. And the thing that we're looking for when we're looking to engage with the different stakeholders within any sales process is familiarity. So,
Mm.
you spoke about, cold calling and picking up the phone being a lost art. I'm probably similar. If you're going to look to try gain my attention, it's not just going to be the first time that you ring me, you're going to be able to sell me something.
Mm.
Ideally, you want to be in front of your prospected customer by using a few different channels. You want to make that outreach call, and if you're unsuccessful, you want to send a personalized bespoke email, again, which rarely would highlight key challenges that the customer's probably facing. And then you want to stand out, you want to utilize WhatsApp, you want to use a WhatsApp voice note, you want to use the different tools that we have. There is so much available right now in this modern world of selling. LinkedIn, again, LinkedIn voice note, gifts. I'm a massive fan of personalized
Yeah,
approaches, and yeah, really standing out, because it's all about standing out in the noise, because there is a lot of noise out there, Mike. There are
there is.
lots
Yeah.
of sales professionals. In our industry, there's lots of recruitment companies. So it's all about, imagining yourself being on the other end of that phone call. Imagine
Yeah.
yourself being on the other end of that outreach, and what would you want to see? And that's kind of the mindset that you
Yeah.
want to put yourself into to
Yeah.
be successful.
How would you want to be prospected? What
Exactly.
would you want to hear?
Yeah. What would you want to hear?
Yeah. You've described there a cadence, basically, without
Yeah.
calling it a cadence.
Yeah.
Um, how important is that in your view to have a
Yeah.
structure
Yeah.
around your prospecting methodology?
100%. And this boils down to probably one of the points that I was going to speak to, which is, goal orientation. But when we speak about a cadence, for some people that might not understand, a cadence is essentially a step-by-step process that we would be looking to follow and implement within your sales process to ultimately be successful. What we're looking for here is a guide, and then the beauty of the cadence is, we're then looking for patterns and repetitions. So yeah, I live and die by my cadence. It's important to have that process, but not just to create it, to stick to it in over a period of time.
So, for the benefit of the people listening who might not have a structured cadence, maybe their prospecting revolves around, I'm going to make a phone call today. If they don't answer, I'll send them an email later on, then I'll try them
Yeah.
at some point tomorrow. And if they don't answer, maybe I'll give them a call at the end of the week. Like, what benefits do you feel having a cadence has personally
Yeah.
enabled you to achieve? And like, what outcomes have you seen?
Yeah, so the benefits that I've seen from having a cadence is it's allowed me to realize why I am being successful within my sales process, right?
Mhm.
It's given me the opportunity to be able to quantify and to have these targets and metrics that I could work towards on a daily basis. So I know fully well that if we were to maybe look at a target, just to make it
Mm.
really simple for people. Let's say I'm a sales professional and my target is $10,000 per month, £10,000 per month. I don't know why I
Yeah,
said dollars there. For you
dollars,
to,
pounds, sorry.
it's all about breaking that down, right, and working backwards. So to reach this £10,000 target, how many deals do I need to get? So if
Yeah,
it's two deals, what is comprised within a deal? I'm probably going to need to, potentially send out a proposal. So
yeah.
how many proposals to get those two deals to get to 10,000? Let's say it's a 50% conversion rate. That's four. To get those proposals out, I need to have conversations. How many conversations do I need to have on a daily basis?
Mhm.
I need to speak to maybe 10 decision makers on average to
That's your
speak.
success metric, isn't it?
That's my
That
success
is it.
metric.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. And that's what I'm looking for. And to speak to these people, how many calls do I need to make? So it's all about that goal orientation, that process. My cadence has allowed me to look at my data and look and see, look, to reach my job target, I need to speak to this amount of people on a daily basis. I need to speak to 10 people. I need to the quality of the outreach has to be this. So it's all about something being tangible. You're not shooting in the dark, shall we say. You've got a real process to be able to follow to be successful over time.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think at the moment, when you said before, standing out from the noise, that is what the top performers
Yeah.
will be doing across any industry sector. In an environment where it's more difficult to sell, we've got to try and change our approach. We talk about purposeful prospecting, don't we? And being intentional about everything you do can achieve better results, because the person, again, receiving the outreach can see that they're not just a number.
Yeah.
They're not stuck in some marketing campaign where they're getting loads of generic emails. So yeah, that's definitely something we've seen top performers doing, people doing within our business too. I want to go back to gifts, because you mentioned gifts.
Don't get me started on the gifts.
Give us some examples of some gifts that you've used, and
Yeah, yeah,
what results have you had?
that's a great point. I think we spoke about cadence earlier on. I've utilized a GIF. I think it's so important to try and stand off with the noise. Just to give you an example, there was this customer that I was prospecting going back, a few months ago. I think I had tried to, ring them, ring a few different potential stakeholders that I thought were the right people to speak to. Wasn't being successful. I tried to send some bespoke emails, wasn't getting anything back. I was able to get a connection acceptance on LinkedIn. Again, tried to send a LinkedIn message, that didn't work. I then followed up with a LinkedIn voice note. I thought that was quite a good approach. Again, that didn't work. So, I thought, what could help me potentially stand out from the noise. And on your LinkedIn, if you look on your setting, well, in the direct message settings, there are loads of gifs and loads of memes. And I'm a sucker for anything that's funny, or even
Humanises the
sad.
approach, though, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Like, it
100%.
brings
And
a bit of humour to it, and
yeah,
people
yes.
relate to it.
Exactly. So there's, quite a lot of gifts that I tend to like, that I like to see. And yeah, believe it or not, I sent a crying face gif. So it was, I dug that one out the archives. I thought it was really good. I said, if I can't get a response to this, then geez, like I'm probably barking up the wrong tree. I sent this gif. I got an amazing response. Turns out that, my messages had been missed. They'd been meaning to come back to me. I was actually able to pick up, a meeting on the back of that. Had a meeting, worked on a few vacancies, filled one of the vacancies as well. So it's an all in all success story that, I hold clear to my heart, because, so the mighty GIF, and, there's GIFs on all different platforms, right? But
Yeah.
it's definitely an approach that I would 100% recommend to, humanize yourself, get yourself standing out from the noise, but also just to think a bit outside the box, because sometimes that's what it takes to get someone's attention.
Yeah. I agree. It's great use of prospects, and makes it a bit more interesting as well, though, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Trying this different approaches makes BD more fun.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
at times it can be one-dimensional, can't it? And it is monotonous, but
Yeah.
sales is repetitive, it's monotonous, and the best salespeople master the basics and do
Yeah.
the basics exceptionally well every day, don't they? So this just brings a different
Yeah.
dynamic. So if people haven't tried using GIFs or memes, then just do it. You'll
Go for
humour
it.
yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go for it. Go for it.
So we covered off, haven't we? Rapport,
Yeah.
multi-channel approach,
Yeah.
understanding your success metrics,
Yeah.
gifts.
Yeah.
Um, there's another point I wanted to talk about just before we move on,
Yeah.
which is arguably the most important, which is having an inch wide, mile deep, as we would call it,
Yeah.
understanding of your target customer profile. So, to give a bit of context on this, if I'm a salesperson and I am prospecting logistics companies, right? So, and my patch is Coventry
My old
and Warwick.
industry, that Mike.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Coventry and Warwick as logistics, and that's my market.
Yeah.
Then, and that's the one that I've chosen to target. Then I need to be certain that I understand what the community of decision makers are like in that sector, what problems they experience at the moment, how much their problems weigh on them. Then I know if my product, solution, service is going to be a fit. And I want to know that I've got an idea of what's going to motivate them to want to speak to me. But that takes time, doesn't it? And I think certainly what in my experience and what I've seen, you get salespeople and they'll be more like scattergun and I'll like speak to every different industry sector without really thinking about who needs this solution,
Yeah.
and then targeting that and really spending time on getting to know that particular market segment.
Yeah.
So I wanted to touch on that because I think it's important. We don't talk about it enough, but it's going back to that purposeful prospecting piece, isn't it?
100%, Mike. It's such a key point. And when I think, great example with the logistics, by the way.
I've
Inch,
totally forgot that was your background. But
inch wide, mile deep. The top performers within any industry, I believe they're probably a bit obsessed about the industry that they
yeah,
work in.
they are. Yeah, yeah.
And you've spoken about, a scattered approach. A scattered approach is no good to anyone, and I think the modern customer can pick up on that.
It's
When
annoys
someone
people.
is, it annoys people. It's not
You lose
direct.
credibility.
You
Yeah.
lose credibility, so
Mm.
it's all negative. It's all about, from my end, as a salesperson, what you want to do is you want to really look to understand that market. You want to specialize. You want to understand what is important to the customer. So, dovetailing on that back of that logistics example, it's about understanding what challenges are they facing, from a transportation, what are the key things that they would like to see sort of moving forward, what's
Yeah.
involved within their decision making process, what are their goals sort of moving forward. So the top performers have got a customer centric approach. That's what
Yeah.
Inchwide
Yeah.
Marketing, right? It's all about putting the customer first rather than just selling, selling, selling. It's about understanding the needs of our customer. And you can put this in any industry: logistics, medical devices, business to business sales, construction. It's all about looking to understand what is important to our customers so that we can ultimately look to add value by providing them with a bespoke approach, a tailor-made approach, which will ultimately help them and also help us increase our success rates and our efficiency. So yeah, that's what inch wide mile deep means to me, and it's
Yeah.
the right way to be prospecting, especially moving forward in the modern day.
I think you nailed it. I think you nailed it there. You mentioned the word obsessed.
Yeah,
You can't be the best at anything unless you're not obsessed with it. Just
correct.
can't. And it goes, outside of work. If you look at best football players, rugby players, whatever in the world, they're all obsessed. Like they spend longer on the training pitch. They take
Yeah,
more care with the preparation. It's the same in sales. If you're not obsessed with how your solutions solve the problems of your customers and that customer centric approach, and you're not obsessed with being the best,
yeah,
and you probably won't make it to be a top performer. You have to be obsessive, don't you?
yeah,
That's what I've seen. Is my experience, your
yeah,
experience as well. Yeah. Okay. So moving on. So we talked about
yeah.
in our interpretation what makes a top performing new business sales professional, and hopefully people have got a lot of good insight and tips from that. How do we identify them in the recruitment process? Because a lot of what we've discussed there, you can't see that on the CV, can you? Not there. Like unless you meet these people. So it's when we're meeting these people, how do we extract the top performers from the rest of the talent pool? Because most people will write a decent CV and
Yeah.
I'll put good achievements on there and I'll say they're a top performer. They may very well may be, but there'll be companies that I know I've recruited for and hiring managers that I'll be listening where they've taken on someone that they thought was absolutely mustard,
Yeah.
but then they've not ended up being able to cut it. So how do we identify them? What have you seen maybe with some of
Yeah.
your current companies that you work with in terms of what they do in the recruitment process to find these people?
Yeah, and I think obviously this is the hardest part, but also the most important bit. I think about ultimately what we want to do is create a recruitment process that allows us the opportunity to analyze, qualities, behaviors, and attributes that make a high performing sales profession. So what we need to do is firstly understand what are the top performers within our business.
Yeah,
What are the top performers doing within our organization on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis to reach these goals and figures. So within that, I would be recommending interviewing the top performers. I'd be recommending, looking to analyze what are the key things that they do, and then
yeah,
bringing this forward into the recruitment process itself. Then on the other end, it's also about looking at the poor performers, right? And the people that maybe aren't doing as well, so that we know what to look out for on the negative side as well. So I think the key thing that I'd be looking to do, and I'd be advising any organization, is to firstly look to understand what works well for us, why it works for us, and then creating a process or framework to then identify that within the marketplace.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
When you say framework process,
Yeah.
like what have you seen around that, if
Yeah.
anything?
Well, I think ultimately, the top performing new business sales professionals
Yeah,
are obsessed with their sales process, and they
yeah,
understand the sales process. So if I'm then recruiting to find a high performing sales professional, I'm looking to understand, do they know what their sales process is? So that's what
yeah,
we're analyzing, and we're looking for from
yeah,
them. Are they able to convey what the approach to driving new business is? Are they
yeah, you
able to explain how they engage with the customer, how they negotiate, how they close, how they get these deals over the line? And a good way to do that is to, ultimately create things within the recruitment process. So that could be, role plays,
yeah,
situational based scenarios that we're assessing for. And again, these are things that you won't be able to assess on the CV, but these are definitely competencies and things that we could look and check out for. So it's all about doing things like that to be successful.
yeah. I think that point on interviewing top performers and low performers is an
Yeah,
excellent one, because if you're in a role, let's say it's a boots on the ground or feet on the street
yeah,
sales role, and you're going around industrial estates, door knocking, you've got to make an impression really quickly. You've got to demonstrate extreme resilience as well, haven't you? Maybe setting a practical task around that, which could be, the person spends X amount of time on a field visit with one of your with one of your top performers,
yeah,
and has a go
yeah,
at getting a foot in the door. So you can see if they've got that confidence, if they can do it without any sort of training. Maybe if you've got an SDR job where, again, we're contradicting ourselves a little bit, but hopefully people can see why. Let's say you are one of these companies that leads with email in terms of your BD strategy,
yeah,
and you need to write amazing emails, then why not bring that into play? Why not say,
yeah,
write us
exactly.
3 different versions of a prospecting email
Yeah,
that you essentially create an experience there where you're assessing for that competency. I, I would add to this, and something that I've seen companies do is create a skills matrix.
yeah,
It's quite rare, but I've seen it and I've heard of it as well, whereby what you do is you get your top performer and you'd grade them in the areas of their role that they do. So there'd be like the specific parts of the job, like the tangible elements. So preparing for a meeting, for example,
yeah,
it could be around, maybe as an activity metric in there. There could be something around system compliance. There could be something around the conversion rates from meetings attended to sales. So you've got that on one side, which are all the tangible aspects of someone's performance, and then you have a behavior element as well, and you grade each top performer
yeah,
in different areas. So you might have like below expectation, you might have intermediate, and you might have advanced. And might say, right, for someone to be a top performer, they need to be advanced in these areas. And then you assess your top performers and you'll see these patterns emerging.
yeah,
And then you can engineer your recruitment process around that, because you know what behaviors we should interview on. And also, you've got this practical, tangible element, which can
yeah,
say, right, so for our second stage, we're going to incorporate a task that allows us to identify they've got this in them. So I think that's a good starting point, and that's a real forward-thinking way to extract top performers from your recruitment process. That quite rare in the
yeah,
market. I don't speak to many companies that have got a skills matrix,
yeah.
but it's something worth investing in.
People don't have to be outstanding in every single category, to
Spot on.
be, usually the top performing new business sales professionals, if they are, you know, um, a good average across the board, but if
Mm.
they couple that with that hunger, that
Yes.
drive, that desire to, to want to be the best, sometimes these people outperform,
Yeah.
and that's what you find really. So a good drive, work ethic, plus all the skills that we're assessing for on the skills matrix, then you're on to a winner. So they actually don't have to be outstanding in every single
Yeah.
category to be considered for the role.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely, because you could be, intermediate in one section,
yeah,
but show coachability is absolutely key, isn't it?
exactly.
Again,
Yeah,
something that we didn't touch on earlier, but
yeah,
top performers generally have an appetite to learn, don't they? And they want to continuously improve themselves. So this is something that you'd be looking for as well. Coachability, taking on feedback. If you're starting a practical element to the interview, and for example, it's a role play, and the person after the role play is saying, "Oh, I just can't wait to get feedback." And again, you're onto a winner because that person's coachable. So who's in scoring intermediate? You're thinking, right, they've got enough there. Yeah. The behaviours are the key. The behaviours are the key, because if you look across most businesses, the practical elements can be trained, but the behaviours and the attitude can be harder to mold and develop. And it depends on the role, the level of role you're recruiting for. Maybe if you're recruiting for a more senior role, then you might want the intermediate to advanced on the skills matrix, because ultimately you're paying for that experience, aren't you, with a higher salary. But if it's a more junior role, the lower end of the spectrum, then you might be more inclined to recruit top performers based on behaviours. So it's not an exact science, but hopefully people have got some good tips from that and things that they weren't thinking about, and a lot of value in it. Anything you'd add, Sam, just before we wrap up? We're coming from the end of the podcast now. So any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, just final thought for me, and it's just important, for people to realize that sales is hard, right? Sales is a difficult industry to be in, and I know we haven't touched on this as much, but resilience is so important for anyone to be successful within this industry. So it's important for us to be assessing people for that, for sure. Evidence, examples of resilience, how they overcome a challenge, and what they do to keep themselves motivated. So just a final point, just to for people to remember that the industry that we're in ultimately is a difficult industry, but we do need to assess though for those resilient qualities, to be an ultimate top performer at the end.
Yeah, indeed. Sales and recruitment, best industry in the world, in my opinion, but I'm biased. So yeah, okay. Well, that brings us to the end. Thanks for coming on, Sam. Love that. Mike. We'll be back next week, won't we, with another episode?
Yeah, this time next week. Look forward to it, Mike. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And see you soon.
And then thanks everyone for listening, and we will catch you all again next week. Cheers. Thanks a lot.